Welcome back to another episode of the Jag Bros. This is your host, Joey Raymond, with my two older brothers, Jack and JT. And we got another Jags win. Very rare around these parts. That makes 4 for this season, which is just miserable. But we'll see if we can close it out with 5 wins and end the division 4-2. That would be crazy that 4 of our 5 wins would all come within the division. But hopefully there'll be some change to come and we'll have more happier news in a newer episode. But we wanted to go ahead and do a rundown what the rookies this year have done. What are some bright spots kind of looking towards next year? What did you guys think of the Titans game, and what did y'all see from the rookies that have played so far?
To me, the Titans game was frustrating. You end up winning the game, but ultimately losing what you should have done. You absolutely should have lost that game to the Titans. Give the Titans one more win. Give yourself a chance for a slightly better draft pick. It's only going to be more valuable for them to have lost that and putting them in a position to get a Cam Ward or one of these other great players in the top 5 of the
Cam
NFL
Ward,
draft.
What are you talking about? We're not drafting a quarterback.
No, I understand we are not. The Titans are is what I'm saying. I'm not saying we should go draft Cam
the
Ward.
hot takes early.
No. But look, there's value to those picks, and to give it to your arch rival as the Titans, it just sucks. And it's not like you're building Trevor's confidence or anybody else's confidence. The team doesn't care, and it looked like both those teams tried their best to lose that game on Sunday.
It looked almost perfect because if you were drawing up the game plan from a fan standpoint, obviously not the coaches. The coaches, the players want to win, but it almost worked perfect where Brian Thomas Jr. has an amazing game. Maason Smith has a very nice game. Some of these young guys have good plays. And then you just wanted to lose that game, to your point, JT, stay up in that top 3 range and knock the Titans out, because it is going to be very interesting. Do the Titans get a franchise quarterback? Do they roll with Will Levis? You never want to give any of your rivals, especially with the AFC South being wide open. You don't want to give the Titans anything.
The Titans can get a quarterback, but they're so bad that it won't even matter. Look how horrible they are.
Joey, look at what the Texans did. We said that 3 years ago with the Texans. Now they're back-to-back AFC South champions. And look at what the Redskins or the Commanders have done now with Daniels. Some of these teams are truly one quarterback away. And I don't want to help the Titans out any way long term.
Yeah, but Houston and the Commanders, it wasn't just the quarterback.
They were awful.
It was good moves during the offseason of adding free agents, getting Will Anderson Jr., getting Danielle Hunter, getting Joe Mixon, like adding things to that quarterback, and then having a good coach, and then the whole scheme kind of going together. But Houston has its own issues. If we just were somewhat good, we would have easily have run the AFC South. The AFC South is miserable. Houston is not good. They're one and done this season, easy in the playoffs. And then the Commanders, yes, they are doing well, but how much is that just a quarterback, or is the team actually playing and was put together very well?
And new coaching. So again, we're going to talk about the rookies. We're going to break them down, but that's where, at least for me as a diehard Jags fan, that's what gets me excited. Can we bring in the right coach? For me personally, can we bring the right coach and GM combination where we can start to build something? Because to both y'all's point, the AFC South could not be more wide open. Texans have a ton of problem. Stroud is in a sophomore slump. The Colts just got dismantled by Drew Lock and the New York Giants, who scored over 40 points for the first time in half a decade. And the Titans are obviously so bad, even when we are having one of our worst years, we still sweep them. And we might sweep the Colts too this Sunday with a big game, if nothing else, for draft position. But let's talk about these rookies. We've got to kick it off with our first round pick, Brian Thomas Jr., having a monster season, getting snubbed this week from the Pro Bowl. But you just look at what he's done this year as a rookie, And it's just so exciting to build around a wide receiver one like this. Finally, a true wide receiver one in Jacksonville. He's currently 5th in the NFL in terms of receiving yards with 1,179, with an incredible shot to get top 3. He'll at least get top 4 after week 18. And then he's also 5th in terms of receiving touchdowns in the entire NFL with 10, potentially a shot to move up a little bit as well there. And he's been the best rookie receiver in what was slated as a historic wide receiver class. So let's just give flowers. Obviously, the NFL is not going to do it, but let's give some love to BTJ.
The NFL won't be giving flowers to BTJ this year is because we weren't giving flowers to BTJ or weren't thinking that he was going to be that good at the beginning of the year. He wasn't getting targeted.
I was.
We didn't scheme. Oh, I know we did, but I'm talking about the coaches. And that's what's so frustrating when I hear people talking about, oh, I think maybe Trent Baalke's gone, but Doug maybe staying around, or people are trying to like give Doug maybe another chance. It took him 2/3 of the season to finally figure out, oh, maybe I should target BTJ more than 5 times in a game, and we should run our offense through him. Everyone and their mom was screaming and could see after the first game that he was ready and needed to be a focal point of this offense. Christian Kirk was not playing very well this year. Like, it wasn't like there were these other guys that were overshadowing him, then they got hurt, and then he showed up. No, he was already here. And we were just so dumb that we're like, oh, we'll just throw it to the open guy. The idea and how this offense is run is so piss poor that it is insane that we would even consider not firing our coaches.
Well, I mean, Christian Kirk only played about 5 games this season. And just to play devil's advocate here, most rookie wide receivers don't truly have a breakout until the second half of their season because it takes them time to learn the playbook. It takes some time to get on the same page as quarterback. I agree, Joey. Maybe we should have drew up more plays for BTJ, especially as we started to see even early on that he had these flashes. But it's not unrealistic that rookie wide receiver being the focal point of an offense where he may not even know the full playbook, or at least has not had any type of proven track record game over after game, especially when defenses started to scheme for him. But look, he rose the challenge. He's been awesome. He's benefited from there being a vacuum with no Christian Kirk and no Gabe Davis. Demanding any
Gabe
type
Davis
of targets.
didn't even show up this season, so
well, fair, but like it's still somebody. I mean, Brian Thomas Jr. was only running about 50% of the snaps early on this season, so it's again, and you can blame Doug, but like that is way more than most, even very good rookie wide receiver. Yes, statistically he's been better, but Malik Neighbors has been great too. He's been injured at times. Your boy Ladd McConkey is actually right behind Brian Thomas Jr., despite the fact that he is does not nearly have the same traits that Brian Thomas Jr. has. And it feels like by this point next year, Brian Thomas Jr. could be in the same circle as Jamar Chase, Jefferson, some of those top 5 type of wide receivers. I think it's very possible, and it's going to be probably a first round fantasy draft pick next season.
NFL LSU. Gotta love what you've seen from BTJ, and especially there was a lot of nerves, rightfully so. I mean, he was a riskier draft pick in some regards, and the Jaguars have missed a ton on wide receiver, but all of us were wanting all these different options, whether it's go trade for T. Higgins or Brandon Ayuk or keep Calvin Ridley, and BTJ has outperformed all of them. And look, I am the biggest anti-Trent Baalke. I think he needs to pack up right alongside Doug and Nielsen and Press Taylor. But I've also said this is the one pick in the one move in all of his career as a Jaguars GM where it is a clear home run. He's had some other good moves, but this is the clear home run because not only did you land him, but you traded back and landed multiple picks. And it is really exciting because he's torching the NFL. Yes, to your point, JT, with fewer guys competing for targets now, but also he's torching the NFL with Mac Jones as his quarterback.
Yes.
Yeah. And when you have fewer people to throw to, that means that they're already double covering him, and he's still getting over 100 yards and a touchdown.
And to Baalke's credit, there were some landmines. Like Adonai Mitchell has not lived up, and that was a guy people thought Jacksonville could take. Ladd is somebody that they thought we could take, and I think Ladd's a nice player, but I think Ladd is benefiting from Herbert being very good and the Chargers just being a very well coached team now
And
with
they don't have any
Harbaugh.
other wide receivers to throw
And they
to.
don't have any other wide receivers exactly. So, well, kind of similar situation there to BTJ then in some regards. But
Well,
the
not
other
so
guy,
similar.
Xavier Worthy, he's looked okay at times on a very
He's
good
just a
Kansas City.
speedster. He's not just like
Yes.
he's not a wide receiver. Like
So we,
he's
so yeah,
a
exactly. So
gadget player.
I think he's done a nice job when there were several other wide receivers that we could have taken there, and Keon Coleman, another guy. Like all these guys that were slated around that same spot, we picked the best of all of them.
Yeah, I think he lucked into the pick somewhat, because we know that he wanted to keep Calvin Ridley, but luckily the Titans went and offered him too much money. And then we also knew that he was thinking about trading for Brandon Ayuk, but he just wanted too much money. So he kind of had to go with Brian Thomas Jr. He at least knew that he was better than, as you said, those other rookies that he could have picked. But who knows if he had the money, if the Titans didn't offer Calvin Ridley more money, then we could be sitting there with Calvin Ridley and someone else could be having Brian Thomas Jr. Because I think it's not just that he's at the Jaguars. He was going to be good anywhere he went.
What is the world coming to where I am more positive on a Trent Baalke move than Joey? 2025 is a truly bizarre start already.
You have to give that first round pick an A+
Oh
from
yeah.
where he took it.
Most
Everybody
draft
else,
picks are lucked into it. But I was just saying
no,
like
no, disagree.
okay,
I hear what
so
you're
the
saying. I
Rams
hear.
knew Puka Nakua was going to be this great guy. They'd had him
Yes.
without even shoulder pads on at practice. They
Oh,
didn't
okay. You're
know.
talking about a 6th round pick versus a 1st round pick, and most like, oh, Aiden Hutchinson just luckily happened to be really, really good for the Lions. No, I don't think it. I think there's a lot more to scouting and those
But it
things.
did
To your
luck out that
point,
the Jags didn't take him.
yeah, fair. But yeah, I think you give him an A+ just for the pick and what it is. It's probably Balky's best pick given the fact of other options he could have taken. Which brings us to the second one, Maason Smith. We got to see him on display pretty much the entire game against the Titans. Joey, what do you think of him?
Yeah, he's becoming a very solid D tackle. I mean, he's definitely better than Tyler Lacey or Ledbetter. I think he needs more games, more practice under his belt to become a better D tackle. He gets some push up the middle more than we've seen all season, pretty much. He could do a little bit better in the run game. He gets pushed around a little bit during the run game, but I think that's just from lack of experience. He didn't play that much in college, so he's going to need someone to really kind of teach him. And obviously, Eric Armstead's not doing that because he's too busy trying to figure out if he's an edge guy or a D tackle. I think we actually need to get a free agent D tackle that's just a D tackle to come help coach him up, or a better D line coach, because I do think that he could become very good. And I was really upset that he was a healthy scratch, but I did hear him in an interview say that during that healthy scratch that it was actually his fault that he wasn't ready as like a professional. He was kind of showing up late to practice and wasn't doing what he needed to do. So it wasn't actually the strife between Trent Baalke and Doug Peterson that was keeping him out. It was just that he wasn't quite ready to be a professional and he wasn't putting in the work.
It was probably both of those things. But that's a great point, Joey, because we've harped on that being one of the key indicators that there is a lot of strife going on between those two. And if that's the case, good. And I'm glad to see that he's progressing. And that was one of the things, Jack, you and I especially were frustrated with the pick originally, is because he's a project. And so why are we getting a 2nd round defensive tackle who's a project when we should be in more of a win now type of mode? Well, we saw some of the sparks and flashes, and that's what you would want to see from a project. So one of the things that we all had this huge argument about a month and a half ago, that hey, we need to make sure we get a defensive tackle in the first 2 or 3 rounds of our draft class. Do you guys still hold as firm that we need a defensive tackle, seeing the little bit of sparks we've seen from Maason Smith at this point?
I think we still
Yeah.
need a D tackle, but I don't think it needs to be drafted, maybe more of a free agent. But I wouldn't hate taking a D tackle. We are so little and just not enforcive on the line. Like people run over us or run through us. I would much rather get a huge guy and get some like old Stroud and Henderson-esque D tackle and really beef up this defensive line.
No, it's not an emergency pick anymore. You've seen enough from Maason Smith to be excited. He's had back-to-back games with sacks, putting him at 3 for the season, which vaults him into 3rd sacks for the Jaguars roster. Do you want to know who he passed to move into 3rd for the Jags sacks for 2024 so far this season?
Is it Roy Robertson Harris?
And,
exactly. Yeah.
Who hasn't even been on the
I think
team?
Aluakon has 2 or something like that.
Yeah, I think
He
Roy
did have
Robertson
2.
Harris had 2 before we traded him like 8 games ago.
Which this is the frustrating part because it's the same thing 2023. You have 2 great edge rushers and no one else. So clearly you're going to need someone to go get after the quarterback besides Josh Hines and Trayvon Walker. Whether I know JT, you lean more towards you can never have enough edge rushers, but I come back to what you said in one of our recent podcasts, JT, which is you look at this team and more, which in some ways is nice, especially if you bring in new GM, new management, is you can go best available player at pretty much every position, and it's going to be a win for the Jags. So it doesn't become a dire need, but you're looking at a Jags team that's going to finish 31st in sacks with only 31 total, less than 2 per game. So if you go get a beast defensive tackle, I'm not going to hate that pick at all.
So
I would love Abdul Carter from Penn State or one of the. I mean, there's some great edge rushers and
He's
defensive.
awesome.
we're not taking an edge first round.
Why
because
not? You
because
can
you won't
never have enough
start.
edge rushers.
You're not going to start. Why would you take a top 5 guy who won't
find
start?
a way to get him on the field. Move somebody inside.
You'd have to move Trayvon
somebody, like,
Walker inside.
play a different
which
style
they have
defense, which is we're gonna have a
never
different
even
defensive coordinator.
Looked at that, doing that. Now, granted, we're most likely cleaning house, and that could happen.
Yes,
But at the soonest I think you can get an edge is 2nd round.
No,
Or you trade back late
you
first.
can get some of these like these. There's some all-time like easy layup defensive ends and edge rushers and outside linebackers and whatever. Like
the edge class
however
is
you
good
want
enough
to
go get one in the 2nd round. You don't need one top 5
unless he's a top 5 player, right? The obvious
That's my
comp
point.
for Abdul Carter is Micah Parsons.
Yes.
You're really going to say, no, I'm not
We don't
saying
need
he's gonna
Micah
be,
Parsons.
Right. That's where the Jags are at. You're a bad enough team that no position, because if he comes in and plays at an elite level, okay, you can trade Trayvon Walker and get some great capital, or you can trade Josh Hines Allen and get some good capital. Whatever.
Or you keep them both and just have all those guys
Sure.
playing on the field at the same time. And all of a sudden, guess what? We don't have to have 2 guys with 10 sacks. We could actually have like a whole team that's ferocious and attacking the quarterback at every time they snap the ball.
Mason Graham's going to be the other big name on the defensive line. That's a guy like that. But obviously, we'll get more and more into the draft as we still have a couple months out. We'll be dropping some extra draft content on our YouTube channel too. But let's talk about the other 2 rookies that have gotten a lot of playing time as well. So you have Jarrian Jones, the slot cornerback in the 3rd round, and then you have the starting kicker, Cam Little, our 6th round pick. What are some thoughts on those 2 guys, those 2 rookies?
So here's something for you guys. If you look at every single Jaguars secondary player and you look at what the QB rating is against them, none of them are in the top 50. But Jarrian Jones has actually been our best corner statistically. He has an average QB rating against him of 82. If you compare that to even our supposedly best player of Tyson Campbell, who gives up over 100 QB rating against him. Granted, he's typically matched up against their best wide receiver, but he also played 11 games this season. And then you keep scrolling into the 200s, and you see Ronald Darby and Antonio Johnson, who, by the way, we've been high on, who's been just absolutely terrible, both giving up over 120 QB rating against them when targeted, and just being gashed pretty much every time the quarterback wants to look their way.
Oh, yeah. Antonio Johnson had a terrible year. I mean, he got benched halfway through. Honestly, we should have lost against the Titans because he left the tight end wide open. That was him chasing him. And then luckily came back and knocked it down and won afterwards. But I wouldn't be going out and giving him props after he gave up a wide open tight end. I think one of our most glaring issues is the safety play. Cisco's obviously gone. Antonio Johnson is not good enough to start. Savage is okay. I would maybe rotate him in sometimes, but I really don't see him as a starter. He's as good as Dewey. So you have two guys that are kind of like rotational,
Below average.
yeah, below average
Yes.
safeties. We need a safety bad.
Cisco, Savage, and Antonio Johnson are all give up over 109 QB rating, all ranked in the 200s when you include linebackers and the rest of the secondary in coverage.
Yeah, I would have no issue honestly drafting two safeties early this
Yeah,
draft.
I would not hate if it makes sense to have a high draft pick on a safety.
Some people are going to look at the 2024 draft class, and I think in some ways, rightfully so, this was a pretty good, if yeah, maybe great draft class, but there were so many glaring holes. There's no reason you're bottom of the third rounder. And look, I'm a big Jarrian Jones fan. I'm a Florida State fan. I love the pick. I gave it an A or A plus, and I think you would still grade it somewhere around there. But you should not have your bottom of the third round rookie be the best guy in your secondary. PFF grade him.
Especially when you're paying one of those guys top 5 money.
Oh yeah. Campbell's injured again, and maybe that's but he looks solid. He does not look like a star. And Jarrian Jones, PFF graded him at a 67.5, and that was clearly the highest graded secondary player for the Jags. And number 2 was Monteric Brown, who in some ways you're like, oh, that's nice that we got something out of the 7th rounder, but that shouldn't be your best outside corner. So Jones has been nice, 37 tackles, a sack, 7 pass deflections, 1 interception. But across the secondary, Jarrian Jones was first in interceptions for the Jags, or tied for first, because no one else could get a turnover.
The other guy you mentioned, Jack, too, was Cam Little. And I scoffed at the pick, and I thought we could have gone somewhere else. And look, I mean, Brandon McManus has been great this year for Green Bay, hitting 94% of his kicks. But Cam Little's right behind him at 92%. He's 100% for extra points, which in this day and age, only 9 other kickers have been 100% in extra points. Been very reliable. Only missed one 50-yard field goal in one in the 40s. He's been excellent all year long. It's great to have hit on that slightly higher draft capital than I thought we should have paid for him, but it's better than taking a punter in the 3rd round.
No, yeah, he's been excellent, and it's nice that we've secured that for 20 years now. I mean, he's 21, and looks like he will be good for a while. You don't have to worry about a kicker pretty much for a very long time. So don't hate that.
Which is beautiful, because you had so much turnover for the last 4 years with kicker.
But
yeah, but I mean, you do have to be careful. Sometimes kickers just fall off an edge.
That is true. That is true.
But I don't see that coming from.
Nobody saw that from Evan McPherson. Evan McPherson was like Mr. Automatic. It made everything from over 50%, including clutch kicks. And now he's like a 70% kicker, and he got benched or cut or whatever for that guy that missed the kick in overtime last week.
Yeah. All right. You're right. But what I wanted to say was, so you have a good pick there, but then you go throw away a pick with Keilan Robinson, who you went and got in free agency, Duvernay, who's been hurt. And we've also seen that the special teams returning is nowhere near what anyone ever thought it was. I think there's been like 1, maybe 2 return for a touchdown out of the entire NFL. And then, I said Parker Washington was a very good returner, but for some reason the coaches didn't believe that until after the preseason and the first game or so. But no, let's go draft a special teams guy and throw away a pick and then put him on IR and he'll never play. What a terrible, terrible pick.
Which is frustrating, because occasionally you do get those guys. Joey, you mentioned on the top of the pod, like Puka Nacua. I mean, not that you're expecting a breakout rookie record guy from a 5th or 6th rounder, but you'll see these guys day 3 have an impact. Cam Little being a clear example. Parker Washington being another great example. So don't throw away a pick for a backup running back kick returner.
That made no sense to me. Look, Javon Foster, Deantre Prince, Myles Cole, those were some of the other guys we drafted. none of them made a ton of impact plays were really noticeable out there either.
No, Myles Cole was a 7th-round pick, but for some reason we have him as the third edge guy. Like I thought he in like 2 years could possibly be something, but no, let's just throw him out there and like I think he was playing after his second game.
I will say you never know, and you're seeing this a little bit with the 2023 rookie class with Brenton Strange and Tank Bigsby having better seasons than their rookie year. So you may see another guy, Jordan Jefferson. He had 10 tackles, a sack, pass deflection. You may see one of these guys, but I wouldn't expect more than one of these rookies to really have any sort of long-term impact on the Jags.
The only ones that have a chance would be Myles Cole or Jordan Jefferson. And I think Jordan Jefferson would be your best bet. Prince, I mean, we have so many below average corners on our team. What is it? Braswell.
Just like defensive tackles.
Yes. They're like, oh, let's just have as many average to mediocre players as we can.
Quantity over quality, baby.
Exactly. That is our defense.
Good grief. I think overall we're mostly happy with how this draft class turned out, despite the fact that we didn't see a ton of that turn into victories in this 2024 season. One more game to go against the Colts here on Sunday. And who knows, by Monday we might have some real things to talk about to give Jaguar fans hope finally. Please. AKA Black Monday, AKA a time for a lot of firings to happen in the NFL. We've already seen some happen before this, but we've been patiently waiting as Jags fans for that day when Doug Peterson and hopefully some more coaches are cleared out. At that point, we can start full on speculation on who our next coaches are. I know Baloo was hinting that Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator for the Lions, has a lot of interest in Jacksonville. This should be a very good landing spot for somebody. I think we should be able to go out and get a coach we want to get, which would be very exciting. And who knows, maybe we can start to turn the optimism around going into 2025, because this year has been so awful and so pessimistic for all three of us that want to be optimistic all the time about the Jaguars. And so with that, maybe for the last time, we'll be concluding our episode with a boo.